Wow, okay. I'm hearing maybe 5 to 7 times the crash and the daughter's drowning death could have been avoided. Straight out to joining me, Nina Burns. You just heard joining us KOVR CBS 13. Bill Garcia is with us, owner of Bill Garcia Investigative Services in this jurisdiction. Critical. Bill, in your jurisdiction, what's the blood alcohol necessary for a DUI charge?
It's point zero 0.08, and obviously she was at least 3 times that amount.
You're seeing a shot right now of the so-called DUI mom, Juliet Acosta. There she is when pregnant with 3 friends. Okay, I'm listening to this crash, point zero 0.08. How is it we've got so many cases where you mix a mom with a car, with booze and water, and somehow they live and the baby dies? It just always seems to be that way. Also joining me in addition to Nina and Bill Garcia, special guest Kimberly Cockrell. You know her well, victim service manager at Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who lost her best friend to a drunk driver as well. Kimberly, thank you for being with us. Did you hear all the points during that scenario where the baby, Reagan, could have been saved? Instead, I haven't even gotten to the fact that mom takes a drunken bath while the baby's drowning, while the baby's upside down, pinned with a seatbelt. Can you imagine what the baby was going through? What the little girl screaming for mommy? I'm sure. Mommy gone. Listen to this. Kimberly, okay. The child's buckled into the back seat of the Subaru SUV. Driving south. She drives onto the shoulder of the road, I'm guessing in a boozy fit, on the left-hand side. So she crosses across the lanes into oncoming traffic. She sideswipes a pole. That should have been enough right there for her to hit the brakes, but that didn't happen. The vehicle gets back onto the asphalt, careens back onto the asphalt. She then keeps driving instead of just hitting the brakes, failing to make a turn, instead driving up an embankment. What? You couldn't see, basically, the mountain. She drives up an embankment and then crashes into an irrigation canal. The sound of the crash was so loud, the crash into the pole. Remember that original crash into the pole and then into the water? That neighbors all run out to find out what happened. How many points were there, Kimberly Cockrell, in just that scenario where the baby's life could have been saved by DUI mom?
Numerous. The first being that she should have never put that baby in the car with her. Never. She should have never been intoxicated behind the wheel. She should never have had her daughter in that car. As a mother, I do not understand this. How, number one, she would do those actions, but how you would leave the scene with your child. You know your child is in that water. You know you put your child in that water, and you leave there and go take a bath. The irony of that is something that I have never, the circumstances of this in my 32 years of dealing with mothers against drunk driving and representing them, that I have ever heard in my life. I have never heard circumstances this egregious.
Guys, not only did she have so many points during the driving incident to save her daughter's life, just 4 years old, but think about the lead up. Because Kimberly, I often hear in court, it was just an accident. It's not an accident. Driving drunk and crashing is not an accident. I've handled plenty of vehicular homicide cases. And this is what I would argue to a jury. Was it an accident that you went into the bar to start with? Was it? Was it an accident you had too much to drink at dinner? Did somebody hold your mouth open and force the alcohol down your mouth? No. You did that all on your own. That was your decision to get another drink and another drink and another drink. That's not a crime. I don't care. It was your decision to get the car keys. That was a decision. That was no accident. It was her decision to rustle the keys out of her pocketbook or wherever she kept them, to walk to the car, to strap her daughter into the car. What, that was an accident? No. She strapped Reagan into the back seat in a car seat for safety. It was her decision to open her door, get in, put the key in the ignition, turn the ignition, reverse it, and put it in drive, and put her foot on the gas. None of that was an accident. This is a DUI, vehicular homicide crash with intent. What I don't get, Kimberly, is why DUI crashes, fatalities, are not considered to be murder, because there's so much intent.
I agree with you. I absolutely wish that every single one of these cases could be charged with murder. In the state of South Carolina, where I am, we don't have that option. I am very glad that the state of California, where this woman committed this crime, has that option, because that's something we just don't have. But everyone should be considered murder.
To Derek Smith joining me, high-profile lawyer who has handled plenty of moms, let me just say, that are not strangers to the criminal justice system. I remember your last one where mommy went to Puerto Rico and left her daughter to starve in a playpen. I don't know how you do it, but you do it, and I'm sure a lot of people are grateful you do it, not me, but them. Derek Smith joining me, as I said, high-profile lawyer at dwsmithlegal.com. Derek, how are you going to explain away the boozy bath? Mommy leaves the scene and runs a hot bath. Nobody did that for her, strips down, and takes a bath, while the baby is still out there hanging upside down from a car seat in a canal.
Those actions aren't necessarily the easiest to defend, obviously. However, we need to get into actually how
I certainly
her
hope you're not going to say
intoxication.
that to the jury, Derek.
Well, it's a lead
Yeah,
up. You
guys, I
get
don't
in.
know really how to explain what she did, but let me give it a stab.
You have to
Hit me,
get
man.
into.
Give me your
You
best
got to get
shot.
into how the intoxication happened. Now, you mentioned before, maybe somebody wasn't pouring booze down her throat. Maybe they were. Maybe something was slipped into her drink that we don't know about.
Okay, wait.
Maybe
I
she
have to
started
actually
some new
see
medication.
his demeanor when he says she was force-fed alcohol. Okay, I'm sorry. Would you repeat that? Maybe she was force-fed the alcohol by who? Her uncle?
We don't know yet. It's still early in the investigation, isn't it? I mean, there could have been a new medication that she was on. There could have been some other factors that led into her getting to that state that she was in prior to operating the vehicle. Well, like I said, whether it's new medication, whether something was in her drink, whether she was involuntarily taking something she thought was something else that caused this reaction chemically inside her body. And then the second part, after the crash, was there some trauma? Did she sustain any injuries that maybe she had no idea where she was after that crash happened? She didn't know what was going on. That's another possibility that we don't know yet. That's why you kind of got to get into these cases. I understand the frustration and the just anger. Absolutely, you shouldn't be drinking and driving. Absolutely, you should not be having a child in your car after consuming alcohol and then driving. However, was she fully understanding what was going on inside her body at that time? What do we know? Was there a toxicology report? Was there kind of blood work done? Do we know what was actually happening inside her when this was going on? And that's what we need to find out.
We do know that toxicology was run. It's a 0.15. That's almost double the legal limit of 0.08. Now, hold on. I love to interrupt you, but I held back because I was taking notes so furiously. Let's just go down your list. Okay. DUI mom force-fed alcohol. Okay, let me just scratch that off right at the beginning. Okay. Now, here's something that the state better be ready for. A new medication. However, if it didn't show up in the toxicology report, I can go ahead and scratch that off. Now you've got head trauma. You're brilliant. Like Dr. Evil brilliant. Trauma to the head. That might work, but was her head examined at the hospital? And if so, and it wasn't injured, I'm going to scratch that off. But you've got two things going for you right now. You've got a new medication argument and you've got trauma to the head. I'm totally, as I'm sure you understand, Derek Smith, discounting that her uncle held her mouth open and force-fed her alcohol. I'm also discounting that he slipped a roofie in her drink. Yeah, that's too far out there. Plus, you can bring the uncle on. The state will bring on the uncle to rebut such a claim. But as to new meds and trauma to the head, at least you've got something to say to the jury. But as a prosecutor, I would counter how she left the scene on her own, went to the bathroom, took off her clothes, ran a bath. Did she put Calgon in it or bath salts? I'm just curious. Anyway, gets in the bath. Did she take a Bic and, I don't know. Because every move she makes adds intent. For all I know, she clipped her toenails. I don't know what happened in that bathtub, but I'm going to find out. And when I do find out, I'm going to make a big poster of everything she did that shows she knew what she was doing. Goes straight to the bathroom, stops up the tub, turns on the hot water, strips down, gets in. That shows a certain degree of coherence to me. That said, back to the facts, something that will not raise my blood pressure like Derek Smith is right now. What else do we know about the night that 4-year-old Reagan drowned dead, suspended from a car seat in Mommy's car while Mommy was clipping her toenails in the bathtub? Listen.
How deep is the canal, and is it possible that the 4-year-old is still inside the vehicle?
Juliet Acosta is already gone by the time a Stanislaus County deputy arrives, but her daughter hasn't been located. The deputy immediately jumps into the water to see if the little girl is still inside the vehicle and finds Reagan Heron still buckled in her seat. With help from Acosta's uncle, the men are able to break the little girl free and bring her to the surface. The deputy performs CPR as an ambulance arrives to rush the little girl to the hospital.
All of this occurring while Mommy is letting Calgon take her away. That from our friend CBS 13 Sacramento. How could a beautiful young first grade teacher be stabbed 20 times, including in the back, allegedly die of suicide? Yes, that was the medical examiner's official ruling. After a closed-door meeting, he first named it a homicide. Why? What happened to Ellen Greenberg? A huge American miscarriage of justice. For an in-depth look at the facts, see What Happened to Ellen on Amazon. All proceeds to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
A call